who's just a couple of minutes away, I would pull out my cell phone, which I did, and I would call my mom and dad in Orangeburg, South Carolina, where I grew up. My dad was then 92, my mom would have been 87. My dad has since passed, but I was able to tell them that they had lived to see the election of the first African-American president. It was a moment I will never forget. You know, that night really crystallized for me just and I guess you could call them impossible changes we have seen in this country since I was a boy growing up in South Carolina at the tail end of the Jim Crow era. A black man had just been elected President of the United States, and I don't care what the special circumstances were, you know, George W. Bush, you know, and it counted a lot just that you were not George W. Bush, and it was the Democrats' turn, and John McCain picked Sarah Palin, you know, and then went off the reservation during the financial crisis. A lot of special circumstances, I don't care. You know, the fact that a black man with a name straight off the Guantanamo detainee list had been elected President of the United States. To me, you know, that was an amazing thing. Some months later, you know, I had met him, I had interviewed him, but some months later, I was able to interview President Obama in the Oval Office. And no matter how often you talk to presidential candidates, presidents, talking to them in the Oval Office is like a whole different thing. You know, and so I'm not usually nervous for interviews, but I'm like shaking like a leaf when I get ushered into the Oval Office, and there were two moments during this relatively brief, but 20-minute interview that just stopped me cold, and I was speechless. One was when my vision kind of wandered, and I noticed that on the sideboard, right across from the desk where the president sits, there was a bust of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. And I thought of the first African-American president sitting over there, making decisions that affect all of our lives and affect the whole world, and looking at that bust of Dr. King, and I just, you know, kind of lost it. And then the other moment was when I looked around and everybody in the room at that moment was African American. You know, the president was there, I was there.